All right, so today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you all sort of like a guide on Louis Vuitton clones and just kind of letting you all know, based on at least what I have here in my collection, what I think are, some of the best clones of the Louis Vuitton fragrances. All right. So just to get started, I'm going to start off with the Le Monsité scent profile. All right. And I think basically, in terms of what I have here right now and what I've smelled, I would say that the best one, really, that money can buy right now, would be Alexandria's L'Immensity. All right. Now, this one to me, I think comes, the closest to Le Monsité, just in terms of like the quality of smell. The strength of the fragrance, the longevity. I think that this one is definitely the best one. Now, it's not, I would say, that much better than some of the other more cheaper alternatives from like the Middle Eastern brands and stuff like that. But I think, if you're just wanting to go for the absolute best that you can get, then L'Immensity would be the choice. And then I would say the next best choice would be Luciano's Magnitude. I would say, there's only maybe a couple percentage difference, between the way that these two smell for the most part. I would say in terms of strength, the Alexandria is slightly stronger than what this is, but not really by much. I would say maybe about, 3 to 5% stronger pretty much. This one also does have like a alcohol blast in the opening, so this one definitely comes off as being a little bit more on the rough side. But I would say that in terms of, it comparing to L'Infinite from Fragrance World, this one definitely is stronger than L'Infinite, I would say. L'Infinite is definitely a smoother blend, in my opinion. They both, I would say, in terms of closeness, are about the same. But again, this one definitely has a little bit better performance than what L'Infinite does. All right. Also, these two are about the same prices for the most part. So I would say you would consider that as well. All right. So again, L'Immensity from Alexandria, if you want the absolute best. Luciano Magnitude, I would say, would be kind of like the best sort of value pick. All right. All right, so the next scent profile is going to be Pacific Chill from Louis Vuitton. And with this one, I just have pretty much two choices. Now, I would say the choice that I would actually choose myself personally would be Alexandria's Pacific Coast. This definitely, I would say, comes the closest to Pacific Chill that I've smelled. I do think that Pacific Chill is, even though a little bit more richer than what Pacific Coast comes off as. It definitely has a little bit more sweetness to it as well. Kind of gives it, a slightly more sort of tropical and fun type of feel to it. But I would say in terms of what I've smelled, this one definitely comes the closest. Now, you do also have the Luciano choice, which is Coastal Breeze. Coastal Breeze is going to be slightly more kind of like on the sort of lemony, sort of tart side, I would say, at least in the opening anyway. Also, there's not as much, I would say, black currant in the Luciano Coastal Breeze, but this is still a solid choice, I would say, for someone who's wanting to get into the scent profile, but, obviously doesn't have the money for the Louis Vuitton, or even the money to buy the Alexandria, which is significantly more expensive, than what the Luciano is. So I would say, again, if cost doesn't really matter to you, but obviously you don't want to buy the, the original Louis Vuitton, then I would definitely go with Pacific Coast, which this one definitely has very good longevity. The Coastal Breeze, I would say the longevity on this is about average. I would say you're going to get about 6 to 7 hours or so out of this one. But it's not going to smell as refined and as good as what the Pacific Coast will. All right. So that's the Pacific Chill scent profile. All right, so the next one is going to be the On the Beach scent profile from Louis Vuitton. And for this one, I only have just the one choice, and this is going to be from Aston, a part of their Luxe Vision line. and this is by the Seashore. So I was not that impressed with the other Aston offering that I smelled, which I believe was the afternoon swim one. That one definitely was not that impressive to me at all. But this one, I would say, even though it starts off definitely not as sort of natural smelling and as smooth as the Louis Vuitton does in the immediate opening, once this one kind of settles down, I would say this is extremely close to the Louis Vuitton on the beach. Like, you know, I would say at least 90+% close pretty much to On the Beach by Louis Vuitton. So if you like that sort of, I would say really like tart, kind of like yuzu, lemon sort of vibe that you get from a fragrance like this, with it, I would say it also kind of has like a floral aspect to it, some spices. It kind of gives me sort of like a suntan lotion type of vibe as well, just the overall scent profile. I would say this is going to be a good alternative to that fragrance. I'm not sure if Alexandria has their version of the scent profile or not. I would say if they do, then I would assume that one would definitely smell a little bit better than this one does. But this one, for the money, at least for what I paid for it at the time, which was definitely under $30, I know, for this particular bottle, then I would say it's worth it. Now, I have seen these Aston fragrances going for, you know, upwards of like $60. I would say absolutely do not pay that much for one of these fragrances, because at least in my opinion, I would say that they're not really worth it. Now, maybe if you're someone who really likes On the Beach and, you know, you don't want to spend the $100+ on the Alexandria for 100 ml, and obviously you don't want to spend the 320 plus on the Louis Vuitton, then, you know, maybe I guess you could say go ahead and spend possibly $60 for the Aston. But I would say definitely try to look around and try to find this closer to like that sort of $30 range. All right. So again, this one is going to be Aston Luxe Vision by the Seashore. All right. So the next scent profile is going to be Afternoon Swim. So Afternoon Swim recently has had, I would say, like a ton of different, you know, sort of inspirations that have come out for it. Right now on this list, I just have 3 of them. Now, I would say the absolute best is, and I mean, this is the absolute best, I would say considerably, is going to be the Alexandria version. Again, Alexandria definitely has been doing a very good job with these Louis Vuitton clones. Afternoon Splash by Alexandria is, I would say, probably one of the most identical fragrances to the original that I've smelled, you know, from them. And I mean, really the only difference that you get with Afternoon Splash over Afternoon Swim is Afternoon Splash is, in my opinion, going to be considerably stronger, you know, than, you know, Afternoon Swim. And it's definitely is going to have better performance. But in terms of like the quality of the smell and, you know, just being true to the original scent profile, this smells pretty much identical to the original. Really couldn't pick up on any differences at all. Now, I would say if you don't, again, want to spend the Alexandria prices, then I would consider going with the Luciano Sunset Swim. So this is going to be, I would say, for the most part, on par kind of with the Alexandria. The only thing is with this one is not going to be as sort of like one-to-one carbon copy accurate as the Alexandria is. So with the Sunset Swim, this one is going to be slightly sweeter than the original Afternoon Swim. I can definitely say that for sure. And I would say that this one is also not going to be as strong as what the Alexandria is. I mean, in terms of strength, this is definitely not a weak fragrance. I would say this is about on par with the original, maybe slightly weaker, but it is still definitely going to give you pretty decent longevity though. So, I mean, at least on me, I believe I was getting like around 6 to 7 hours or so of total longevity with the Sunset Swim. So definitely pretty decent. But again, it's not going to be as one-to-one accurate as the Alexandria. All right. And then if you're just looking for just a completely sort of, I would say just a twist on the scent profile, then you would want to go with Quattro from Paris Corner. So this is not really trying to be an exact clone of the fragrance DNA. This definitely has a much more sort of amped up mandarin orange note. And I would say that the sort of musky, sort of ambroxan nature that you get from Afternoon Swim, that's going to be toned down, I would say, a lot in this fragrance. So this one, it has a slightly different feel to it. It comes off as being definitely, I would say, sweeter than Afternoon Swim. Not as fizzy, I would say. But the longevity that I get with this is actually pretty good. So I definitely get at least 8 hours with this fragrance for sure. So this one, I would say it kind of lingers on me a little bit more for sure. All right. So again, those are the choices for Afternoon Swim. And again, this one was Quattro from Paris Corner. All right, so the next one, this is going to be the California Dreams, scent profile. And this is Luciano's California Vibe. So California Vibe, from what I remember, when kind of smelling these two side by side, this and California Dreams, they were pretty much identical. This smelled exactly like the California Dreams, just from like the initial spray pretty much, which, I would say this was definitely my most, I would say, impressive, sort of Luciano clone that I've smelled, because it definitely, to me, is the one that comes off as smelling the most sort of identical to the Louis Vuitton clone that it's cloning. Now, this is going to be a pretty heavy sort of floral scent. So, if you're not really into florals, then you're probably not going to enjoy this one. I would say it is maybe slightly, kind of feminine leaning. For the most part, though, in my opinion, it's pretty unisex, pretty, sort of summer vibes for the most part. Just kind of really easygoing, clean, fun, sort of summer vibes pretty much. Definitely, I would say something that, you would probably wear to the beach as well. I would actually wear this one to the beach more so than I would this one, which is cloning a fragrance called On the Beach. But yeah, man, this one is very, very good. And the longevity is good as well. I mean, I'm getting at least, I would say, about 7 to 8 hours pretty much of longevity with the California Vibe. So again, man, this one right now is the only one that I've smelled of, California Dreams, only clone. I'm not sure if Alexandria has one. But I mean, I would say with the Alexandria, I don't know how much better they would be able to smell, when compared to this one, especially considering the price difference between the two. So at least for right now, I would say this would be pretty much your best choice. And this is also pretty easy to find. I don't think I've ever really seen this one out of stock. All right. So again, this is California Vibe from Luciano. All right, so the next one is going to be the Orage scent profile. All right, so I only have one choice for this one as well, and this is going to be Tempete from Jockey's Fragrance World. All right, so this one has definitely gotten better, I would say, over time. It's still not going to be a one-to-one clone. I would say this one definitely is still missing, I would say, that really kind of strong, prominent iris note that you get from, Orage. Now, over time, the iris has started to come out, I would say, a little bit more, from what it was when I first initially got this fragrance. But I would still say that this is going to be a little bit more kind of citrus heavy, than what Orage is. All right. Again, I don't know if Alexandria has their version of this scent profile. I would assume if they do, though, that one is probably going to be a little bit closer. But I would say in terms of like the dry down pretty much between this and Orage, that's where this one definitely gets a lot closer, in my opinion. So I would say, you know, at least right now that, you know, this fragrance is kind of maturated a little bit. I would say in the dry down, it kind of gets to like about 90% close pretty much to Orage. The only thing is with the Orage scent profile in general, it's just not really a scent profile that lasts too long and that really projects a lot. So this is definitely going to be a fragrance that you'll need to, you know, well, I won't say overspray, but you'll need to respray it a lot. But this would be a really good office fragrance or a fragrance to wear if you're like in a confined space and you don't want to kind of blow everybody's noses out. This would be a really, really nice fragrance to wear. I do think it's pretty inoffensive. And like I said, it doesn't really project super loudly to where, you know, you're going to offend a bunch of people. All right. So again, for the Orage scent profile, I have Tempete from Jackie's Fragrance World. All right. So for Stellar Times, which is a part of their X-Straight line, I would say the only choice really is going to be Alexandria's Stellar Moments. There's the Lattafa Musamman White Intense. I would say if you're familiar with, you know, Stellar Times, like if you smelled that fragrance before and you were like, oh my goodness, like I gotta find like an alternative for that fragrance, do not get the Lattafa Musamman White because it doesn't really smell too much like Stellar Times at all. I would say that's a completely different fragrance. This fragrance though smells, I would say, at least probably 90% close, pretty much 90+% close to Stellar Times. The quality on this is not going to be as good as, you know, obviously the Louis Vuitton. And I mean, I guess that's to be expected. I mean, the Louis Vuitton fragrance is $560, you know, before taxes. This one is going to be like $120 pretty much. But this one comes extremely close. I would say performance-wise, it performs pretty much like about the same as what the Stellar Times does. So it's a really, really strong fragrance. You're going to smell it even after you kind of wash an area. You'll still be able to get remnants of the fragrance on your skin. So I would say really the difference is the difference between the two fragrances are going to be the florals are definitely, they're a little bit more natural smelling and richer smelling in the Louis Vuitton than what they are in Stellar Moments. But I would say not by that much. I would say by probably 5 to 10% pretty much. All right. So, you know, a 5 to 10% difference in smell, but, you know, this is way, way cheaper. I would say this is definitely your best choice to get that sort of, you know, Stellar Times scent profile. All right. So, again, Alexandria's Stellar Moments. All right, so another one from the sort of Louis Vuitton X-Straight line. This one is actually going to be their take on Louis Vuitton's Symphony, and this is Alexandria's Orchestra. All right, so this is the only Symphony clone that I know of right now. I don't think that there's any sort of Symphony clones by any like Middle Eastern brands. But this is a very, very good clone of it. I would say this is like at least 95% close pretty much. So this is going to be closer than the Stellar Times clone for sure, in my opinion. This one, in my opinion, it definitely, it makes it to where, I guess unless you're just a Louis Vuitton collector or you're somebody who is against clones, I don't really see why you would buy the original over this one, because this one, it is that close pretty much. It performs really good. I mean, I'm talking 12 plus hours on skin. Again, the smell is pretty much, it's almost identical. I would say it's about a 5% difference. The Louis Vuitton comes off as being a little bit more sort of sparkly and rich, you know, in the opening. But that's only for, I would say, probably like the first 5 to 10 minutes of the fragrance. And then after that, the two fragrances, they're identical for the most part. So again, I would say if you like, you know, Louis Vuitton's Symphony, which is just pretty much a really sort of citrus blast, I would say, really unisex as well. then definitely I would say go with Alexandria's Orchestra. All right, and then for Louis Vuitton's Meteor, this one, I would say go ahead and go with the Alexandria Le Meteor. Now, this is the only Meteor clone that I know of that's out there. I haven't really seen any Meteor clones from like the Middle Eastern brands or anything like that. So if there are any out there, definitely let me know in the comments below. But this one definitely, I would say, is also another one of those sort of 90% close, pretty much clones to Meteor. I do prefer the way that the original Meteor smells over this Alexandria version. To me, the smell is higher quality. It's definitely a lot richer in my opinion, and it just overall it smells better, I would say. In terms of how like the citruses and the florals are kind of done in Meteor. But I would say this is still a solid, alternative to Meteor. So, I mean, if you don't have that type of money to be able to spend $300+ on Louis Vuitton, I do think that this is a very good alternative. Just keep in mind, if you're really familiar with Meteor, it's not going to be exactly the same, but I would say it is going to be close enough. All right. So again, this is going to be Le Meteor from Alexandria Fragrances. All right. And then the last scent profile that we have here is going to be Louis Vuitton's Imagination. So Imagination has had a ton of different, clones, inspirations, twists. It's had a ton of those. Right now on this list, I just have 2 of them. All right. So I would say the sort of best overall that you can get, pretty much if money doesn't matter, that's going to be the Alexandria Visionary. And that's why I have, a full 100 ml bottle of this fragrance. I think that this version of it, it does the scent profile its best justice overall, pretty much. It nails down the opening. I would say the mid is definitely where this one excels as well. The dry down, I would say, is not as good as what Essence de Blanc is, which that's also a very good choice as well. I no longer own that one anymore, but that one is also a pretty good choice as well. I would say with Essence de Blanc, keep in mind that the opening of that fragrance is definitely going to be a lot more on the tart side, when it comes to like the citron and the lemon that you get, from Imagination. It's going to be heavier on that than what this will be. All right. But I would say just overall, this one is going to be the best choice if you don't care, about spending $100+ on a clone of that fragrance. Now, if you are somebody that just refuses to pay $120 pretty much for a clone of a fragrance, then I would say your best choice after that would be the Chorus Blue Spice from Cadlush. So this one is going to be, for the most part, I would say on par with the Alexandria Visionary, especially through the opening in the mid. I would just say where this one kind of loses some of its steam is going to be in the dry down. So in the dry down, this one doesn't really do Imagination as well as what Visionary does. And it definitely, I would say, doesn't do it as well as what something like Essence de Blanc does. I think if this was able to do the dry down the way that Essence de Blanc did and kept everything else the same, this one would absolutely be the undisputed best, I would say, Louis Vuitton Imagination clone. It absolutely would. But obviously with these clones, they're not always going to be perfect. Oftentimes they're not going to be perfect. But this one, I would say, for the price, it definitely is on par quality wise for most of the fragrance as the Alexandria is. And this one is half the price pretty much as the Alexandria. So I think for most people are probably going to, gravitate towards the Chorus Blue Spice for that reason. All right. So that is the Imagination scent profile. And that is my take on these sort of Louis Vuitton, clone, sort of, scents here that I have in my collection. Obviously, I don't have any sort of Ombre Nomad clones to kind of go over. I'm not really a fan of that sort of scent profile. I know that Alexandria, I think, has their version of it. I know Maison Alhambra has their sort of John Lowe Immortal version of it. And then I know the Woods collection, they also have a version of it as well. So I would say definitely check out those. I don't know which one of those are, the best one pretty much. But I would assume that all of those are pretty high quality clones of the scent profile for sure. All right. But definitely, man, in the comments, let me know what you all thought about this video. Let me know what you all thought about the different choices on this list. And if you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And also, definitely thank you to everyone that has subscribed to the channel. We are over 5,000 subscribers at this point. So I have opened up the 2 fragrance giveaway, which is the Fragrance World Just Eyes Wide, as well as the Lattafa Cayenne Intense. I have the instructions on how to enter into this on the community tab on the Vegas Scents YouTube channel. So definitely, if you're wanting to know how you can, actually get into, the drawing or the, being able to win those 2 fragrances, then definitely go over to the community tab on the YouTube page and I'll have the instructions laid out for you there. And once again, man, that's Jamar from Vegas Scents. I'll see y'all in the next video.